We've been up for hours.
What have you been writing?
Oh, I got carried away with our delicious revenge play last night. Poison.
No poison. It's Christmas.
Christmas won't be Christmas without any presents. It's so dreadful being poor.
It's not fair. How come some girls get to have lots of pretty things and others have nothing?
At least we have father and mother and
We
teacher.
haven't got father, and we won't have him for as long as this war drags on.
I wish I had heaps of money and plenty of servants so I never had to work
Well,
again.
you could be a proper actress on the boards. They aren't all fallen women.
I can't be an actress.
I have lots of wishes, but my favorite one is to be an artist in Paris and to do fine pictures and to be the best painter in the world.
That's what you want too, isn't it, Joe, to be a famous writer?
Yes, but it sounds so crass when she says it.
Why be ashamed for what
I'm
you
not.
want?
My wish is to have us all to be together with father and mother in this house. That's what I want.
Beth is perfect.
What about your music queen, Bess, huh?
I only do that for us. I don't need anyone else to hear it.
You must not limit yourself.
Mother proposed not having any Christmas presents this year because our men are suffering in the army. We can't do much, but we can make our little sacrifices and do it gladly.
Don't play mother just because she's not home.
Joe, that's so boyish.
That's why I do it.
Well, I detest rude, unladylike girls.
Well, I hate effective like
Welcome to A Niche Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new. I'm your host, Jasmine Garcia, and joining me today are...
I'm Sam Marchioni, and I don't know about you guys, but, if there is any historical author that is not going to be cisgender, I feel like the abolitionist, transcendentalist feminist who was raised in the state with the city that gave its name to lesbian relationships preferred to be called Lou instead of Louisa and said shit like, I am more than half persuaded that I am, by some freak of nature, a man soul put into a woman's body, is gonna be it.
Yeah, no question about it. And the character that is very well known as an autobiographical character probably follows suit. Just saying.
I'm Conor Duffy, and I'm glad to see that the pay rate for short stories has not changed at all in 157 years.
Ooh.
I'm Violet, and when Joe March said women, I really felt that.
I'm Gillian Quickly, and I'd rather be great or nothing.
So say we all. And today, we are discussing the 2019 adaptation of Little Women, directed by Greta Gerwig, with a star-studded cast.
Greetings, I am IER60, the biggest night in Star Wars retelling connections. Point of intersection film. This is a degree 4. Laura Dern plays Vice Admiral Holdo in The Last Jedi. Additional Oscar material found. Little Women won for Best Costume Design at the 92nd Academy Awards. For uncredited amendments, check out iniqueretelling.tumblr.com/sibling blogs.
Many an accolade. You've definitely seen this movie memed.
Women.
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 Bob Odenkirk jump scare.
Tracy Letts jump scare. But it's not necessarily a jump scare if he's one of the first people you see. But it took me a while, like, oh shit, that's Tracy Letts!
A wild Laura Dern in a movie where she's not, like, incredibly terrifying.
I now have questions about what The Last Jedi is like for you, Connor, but I'll leave that for another day.
Yeah, we are not talking about The Last Jedi.
Obviously, this is one of many adaptations of, we'll go by the established name, even though I am fully in agreement with you, Sam. There is no cisgender explanation for Alcott, but this is, of course, one of many adaptations of Louisa or Lou Alcott's seminal classic, Little Women. You've definitely at least heard of this book, if not read it yourself. In fact, we'll talk more about how this kind of flew past me in my childhood in a very weird way. But what's everyone else's connection to Little Women?
Well, I'm from Boston, so I actually, when I was a kid, my Girl Scout troop took a trip out to the Alcott family home, Orchard House, which is in Concord, Massachusetts. We saw, like, the rooms that would have inspired the house that the Marches lived in. There was a paper doll book of the girls that I really, really wanted and didn't get because I didn't have the money for it because I was like 10. But One of my friends gave me a copy of it for my birthday. There was also the copy that my mom had in the 70s. And that one was gorgeous. It had gorgeous illustrations. The spine was shot to hell, though, because my mom had read it so many times and I'd read it so many times.
But, like, that's one of the ultimate ways to show that you love a book, though.
But the interesting thing is, number one, I got obsessed with very specific chapters of the book. So it makes me viscerally unhappy that chapter that I was super obsessed with got either cut down to very little in this movie or completely removed. And also, well, let's just say that I kind of deeply relate to how Joey Tribbiani reacted to reading this book now, but initially it kind of flew over my head at first when the thing that happens to make Joey put the book in the freezer happens. Spoiler alert for a 150-plus-year-old book, guys. Beth dies.
Beth what?
She sure does.
Yeah, and we'll talk a lot more about that in the last episode of this year. Wink, wink.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Sam. My own history with Little Women, I first learned of it when I was 6. I have a visceral memory of standing outside Borders.
Aw, I miss Borders.
Like browsing the books that they would have out on the street and starting to read Little Women. My parents got a copy of it for me. And it actually took me a couple of years to finish it because I kept putting it down and coming back to it. And part of it was that my parents were watching Friends. And it was the Beth Dies episode. And that was how I got spoiled for it.
Beth dies? Is that true? If I keep reading, is Beth gonna die? Beth is really, really sick. Joe's there, but I don't think there's anything she can do.
Joey,
Yeah.
you want to put the book in the freezer?
Okay.
Which is very funny looking back at it. But yeah, I read Little Women as a kid. I also read the sequels, Little Men and Joe's Boys. And so it's something that I've always, like, it's part of my childhood. It's something that was important to me growing up, even though I've only read it twice, once when I was a kid and once again this summer. And without the rose-tinted glasses, I'm a lot harsher on the book now for a variety of reasons, but was keen to check out this adaptation in part because it's a more secular take on the story, because boy howdy, there's a lot of moralism. There's a lot of like middle-class white American Protestantism ingrained in Little Women in a way that made me uncomfortable and occasionally viscerally angry while I was rereading.
Yeah, Professor Bear lecturing those atheists sure was something, wasn't it?
Honestly, not the worst crime this book commits, but that's a weird little aside in the book for sure.
It's almost like, I don't know, Lou Alcott's father was a transcendentalist reformer.
Yeah.
Who, among other things, was like, vegetarianism!
That's my history. The Little Women. Beth was my favorite.
When I was in 4th grade, I went to a K-12 school. The high school was doing the straight play version for their spring play. I did not end up seeing it. I did end up reading like either the full thing or an abridged version around that time. Important information. I had a crush on the girl who played Jo March. I didn't know it was a crush at the time.
Hell yes.
Yes.
Wrong movie, but tale as old as time.
And the Jo did end up playing Mrs. Potts a few years later. Also, about that production, Jo and Meg, they were played by actual siblings, so that's very nice. I appreciate, yeah. Speaking of the moralism, like when you go to a Christian school and the first thing you see is them role-playing Pilgrim's Progress, I'm like, oh my god, they're just like me for real. I got exposed to the Adventures in Odyssey version just last year. I did not see the 95 version. I knew of its existence because, like the Free Theater, they were basically doing a Winona Ryder month, so I knew that existed. I did not see this when it came out. I'm in the Lucky 10,000 here, so...
Yeah, I watched it for the first time today.
Same!
So we have fresh hot takes here.
Yes, I did forget to mention, I did watch the Winona Ryder 95 version as a teen and thought it was fine.
This is actually the only adaptation I have ever watched. I guess I missed the boat on the 95 adaptation. I didn't end up seeing the PBS one that was Catherine Newton playing Amy and Maya Hawke was Jo, and Angela Lansbury was Aunt March.
What?
Oh,
Gotta go find that then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Prince Eric from live action Little Mermaid was Laurie.
Oh, that's good.
Are any of you going to watch the 2022 South Korean television series adaptation?
There's a what now?
Yeah.
There is, yeah.
Yeah, it updates the book to I guess, a modern day setting. It's more of like a romantic thriller.
Yeah, no, Shammy told me about that.
I remember seeing trailers for that one, yeah.
99% sure that's already on our list.
I have no connection to Little Women whatsoever. It's one of the classics that I never got around to reading. My only knowledge of it came from the same episode of Friends that Sam mentioned. I never saw the 95 Winona Ryder adaptation, nor any of the others. In my continuing effort to use my friends' podcasts in order to see movies and justify watching movies I've always meant to get around with, that's why I'm here.
Don't worry, Connor. That's like 25% of the reason of this very podcast's existence for me.
I really liked, Greta Gerwig's Barbie, and I had always heard really good things about this adaptation, and I love, like, the whole cast in this. I think Saoirse Ronan is one of the best actors to ever come out of Ireland, and she has been ever since I first saw her at like 13 years old in Atonement. And I was surprised by how many kind of recognizable faces are actually in this movie, because I knew about Ronan and Florence Pugh and Emma Watson. I hadn't realized that Laura Dern plays Marmee. I also got the surprise Bob Odenkirk jump scare. I always love seeing Bobby, good old Bobby O in a movie. So like I said, I kind of came into this almost completely blind with no knowledge of, what actually happens other than, they eventually become little women.
And then they realized they were no longer little girls. They were little women.
As River always loves to say it with me now, gang.
Pop cultural osmosis is a hell of a drug.
I knew the basics of it. I've had friends who were in the musical version.
The only thing I really know about the musical is the part where Jo is screaming, "Christopher Columbus!" And that
I'll be astonishing,
has always
yes.
been one of the twitchy things about the book.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
I saw the poster in the Lawrence's house, and Jo did in fact say Christopher Columbus, and I did in fact do the Leo DiCaprio point at the screen.
Yeah.
I did audition for the Little Women musical in freshman year. We were going to do Fiddler on the Roof. Not enough boys showed up, so they pivoted to do Little Women instead.
And now for something completely different. Damn.
But yeah, I've seen like images from the 95 movie. Always meant to give it a watch, just never got around to it because I love Winona Ryder. Who doesn't?
Sorry, Jazz, I just realized there's one other connection I have to this movie that I forgot to mention.
Yes.
In 2016, I did Boston's summer Shakespeare on the Common apprentice program with somebody who's in the movie. His name is Jared Reinfeldt. We were both in Measure for Measure together. He played Angelo, and I played the provost, and he was really cool. So I've seen like on his Facebook pictures of him having his costumes fitting and stuff, and that was
very cool. That is very cool. But yeah, I knew of it partially because when I was a kid, I stumbled upon this illustrated, kids biography of Alcott, actually. And for whatever reason, this one particular poem that was cited in it has stuck with me since then. I literally just looked it up. It's one of her early poems. It's called My Kingdom. And this one particular line just kind of really stuck with little me. How can I learn to rule myself to be the child I should? Honest and brave, nor ever tire of trying to be good. Like, that's just one of those things that pops into my head on a regular basis. And it definitely did when I took the time this summer to finally read Little Women. Specifically, I read with my ears. It was a full cast production. Laura Dern did the narration, so that was neat.
Oh, that's sweet.
And obviously I had heard of this movie. Again, this is like one of the most well-regarded films to be memed to this extent, I think. Like, I don't know if it's the most, but it's definitely one of them. And this fast. For it to happen this fast is also really impressive, actually. Like, this film is only 6 years old at this point.
I do think part of it had to do with the fact it came out late 2019. And so there was a lot of time in early COVID days to meme things.
Yeah. I think it was also to do with the level of meta Greta Gerwig put into this, and we'll get to it.
We shall indeed. It's the only thing that makes me forgive a certain aspect of this. But let's get into it. God, this movie feels like the embodiment of a warm drink and a blanket on a snowy day. Like, there's just something very cozy about this.
It's very charming.
It's not present in the book, but as Violet pointed out, the moralizing does kind of cut into the cozy, charming feel.
Yeah, it's something where, like, religion was never in my house. Both of my parents are agnostic, and neither of my grandparents were particularly religious.
Same hat.
So the Pilgrim's Progress stuff, like, flew over my head as a kid. As you say, I think the tone of this movie, I really appreciate the emphasis on, you know, being women in post-Civil War America, the emphasis on marriage and livelihoods and money, which, while present in the book, isn't as much of a concern for Alcott, given the own moralizing that they are working through in the writing. But I think what Greta Gerwig is focusing on makes it more relevant to a broader audience and helps make it more of that universal coming of age story that Little Women kind of has the reputation of being. And, like, to be clear, it's not actually universal. It's a very specific point of view.
Yes.
But I appreciate the broadening of the point of view that the movie takes with it.
Yeah, speaking of broadening, like, this version does actually acknowledge, you know, what was kind of going on with the Civil War that was definitely not acknowledged in the book, because, like you mentioned, Sam Alcott was an abolitionist, but I'm sure she would not have been allowed to bring that up.
It's complicated. The Alcotts were an eccentric family. Like, Alcott was running around and rubbing elbows with Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau and getting all their weirdness in there too. So, like, it's just...
Historical figures are going to be complicated just by the virtue of the time they lived in. There are no exceptions, sorry.
Well, that, and also, like, that transcendentalists were kind of the 19th century equivalent of stoners. Or hippies.
I guess that makes sense given the name. But with that said, they do actually acknowledge, like,
at one point Marmee says to an unnamed black character, because of course they didn't take this as far as they could have, because Hollywood.
There are absolutely adaptations in which they do cast them as all black women. We will get to that one day, I'm sure. But she does out and out say, it's the sort of thing that makes me ashamed of this country. It's just like, no offense, but you should still be ashamed of it. And to Marmee's credit, she acknowledges, yes, she should.
There's also the sort of throwaway line with Joe and Aunt March where they bring up that Mr. March is teaching the children of freedmen, so bringing that sort of abolitionist nature into the text itself.
It's breadcrumbs, but it's still a broader view of things than the original text did, so there's that at least.
It has something in common with Pride and Prejudice with the notion of genteel poverty. Because the Marches do still have this kind of, like, aura of aristocracy, of, like, being well-to-do, even though a big part of their focus is on their lack of money and the way that they need to navigate the world because of that.
You can also note that, yeah, they certainly point out the war ongoing at when we hit the sort of flashback period, and when the movie does the time skip back to to that period of time, and they make reference to it. I can understand why it doesn't really go beyond reference, because you have to kind of decide how much emphasis you want to place on that part of the historical setting, and at what point does it become too important to the narrative. If your narrative focuses on the March girls and their individual journeys and their journey as a group, then if they're not directly involved, then the best you can really do is make reference to why Mr. March is away and make reference to the politics of the time.
No, for sure. Like, I'm not even saying it's necessarily a flaw of the movie. I just also don't want to go too far in praising them for it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it is breadcrumbs. It is admirably intentionally placed without fully reworking the scope of the novel, which Greta Gerwig isn't precious with Little Women in the way that she structures it. I really love the flashing back and forth between the two time periods. I think it's really smart, and it helps add a shape to this movie that can be missing from more straightforward adaptations, because like Little Women as a book has a sort of coming of age vignette quality to it, where each chapter, while chronological, while can continue on from one another, is fairly self-contained.
It's very episodic, for sure.
Yes.
And I also really love how, as we flash back, forward, and backward, like in the past, there's a lot of warm tones in the lighting. And in most of the flash forward, since most of it takes place as Beth is dying, is very cooler tones. It just feels less warm and happy in general.
Like, even when you're in Paris with
Laurie and Amy, it still feels so much colder and sadder.
The one thing that keeps me from fully enjoying the whole flashback, flash forward of it, there are some moments that feel just a little too on the nose. Some of them are impeccably done, like the juxtaposition of Joe wakes up, Beth's bed is empty, she runs downstairs. In one, Marmee turns around and Beth is at the table, and in the other, she's not. But then there's stuff that feels a little more on the nose, like cutting directly from Meg going, I'll be desperately good for the rest of my life, to stressed conversation over the fact that I bought 20 yards of silk, even though it's not even a dress yet, and it's $50, which is so much in 1860s money.
Yeah. Oh, Meg.
Yeah. The way that this movie handles Meg, first of all, Emma Watson, I think, is doing an admirable job. She isn't given a lot to do as Meg, and for me, she's just kind of there, unfortunately, which is a shame, because Meg is a character that I remember enjoying as a kid, and on my reread this summer, I wound up really liking her because she's so vivacious and charming and fun in the book. And her only real crime is being a teenage girl in the 1800s. I think the amount of screen time Meg gets in the movie makes sense, because a lot of what she has in the book is bad. I don't like her courtship with John Brooke. A lot of her married life chapters, they feel very domestic strife in a way that paints Meg as silly and is uncharitable to her as a character.
It's giving proto-50 sitcom.
Proto-50 sitcom, and you're very conscious of the fact that Lou Alcott never married, and so there's a sense that, like, Meg is always being placed in the wrong, and it's not always, like, justified. That said, I do really like the inclusion of the fabric episode, because that's one of the post-married life stuff that is Meg's fault, kind of unequivocally, and points to the sort of marriage and money themes that the movie is going for. So all of which is to say, I wish there was more Meg in the movie. I'm relieved at how much winds up on the cutting room floor, because John Brooke, when I get you, don't court a 16-year-old girl.
Are we talking book Brooke or all Brooke? Every Brooke?
Talking John Brooke in the book.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, I think that would have probably been considered normal back then. Shouldn't have been, but what can you do?
I mean, sure. Professor Bear is also like, what are you doing with this woman who is young enough to be your daughter? But apparently we don't have that problem in this movie, because we got a Frenchman who fucks.
They aged him down like crazy, and honestly, I'm cool with that. I have complicated feelings about Mr. Bear in general. We will get to that. One thing I will say, one really kind of delightful moment in terms of Meg that I did really appreciate was with their baby drag king act, and her natural accent comes out, of course.
Oh my god. Best scene.
Emma Watson is trying very hard with that accent. You know, she's trying very hard to nail the American accent. And as my wife says, she almost succeeds.
Yeah, there are definitely times where it is unfortunately slipping.
It's definitely slipping, honey. I'm sorry, Emma.
Part of the thing is she's done American accents in other films. I'm specifically thinking of The Bling Ring.
Yeah.
And I think she does better in The Bling Ring because it's a much more exaggerated, over-the-top kind of movie where you can be a little more indulgent with it. But for Little Women, for Meg, it's very subdued. And Emma Watson, lovely person, very glad that she has stuck to her convictions in the face of Joanne being Joanne.
Yes.
But she has always been an actress who works better in, let's say, higher volumes, heightened reality. Yeah. And Meg is a character who is constantly trying to be not normal, but
she's trying to be the grown-up.
Fit an idealized image.
Eldest daughter syndrome out the wazoo.
So why is your hair always down, Meg? Meg, why are you wearing side braids? Meg!
Sam, do you want to get it all out now?
The hair in this movie sucks. There are entirely too many side parts. I can see Laura Dern's roots at certain points. They're all wearing their hair down at a point when they would be putting their hair up. Amy's bangs, which I know are there to make Florence Pugh look young, are not period accurate. And that is the hair. I will need to reboot for about 20 minutes before you get the costume rant.
Fair enough.
I don't mind the hair, but I'm also more of a vibes when it comes to historical costuming because without being able to reproduce the techniques used to make time period costuming, it's always going to be slightly off.
This movie kind of fucks with chronology, so it kind of excusable.
Yeah.
Actually, I would argue that the movie fucking with chronology makes it less excusable because you could use the changing of fashion to more clearly differentiate between the time periods. I know there were people who were confused about the chronology of this movie.
Yeah, well, to that I say, were you not paying attention that, like, the warmer tones versus cooler tones, if they're all around each other and they're shouting, they're probably young. If all of their hair is down, they're probably young. And yes, you do have them with their hair down in the modern day as well, but it's more frequently up.
Media literacy in general, yada yada, we say it all the time here.
Yeah, exactly.
How dare we piss on the poor?
Don't be on your phone in the theater and then act surprised when things happen in the movie.
I guess it would be easy to get lost watching this movie if you're watching it with your phone in your hand, yeah, but...
You mean I have to pay attention to the thing I'm doing? Disgusting.
Haven't you ever watched a film before? You watch it and information is revealed to you.
No, but that's why you ask questions during the movie, so information can be revealed to you when you talk to the person next to you.
Grok, is this true?
Also, I am briefly usurping River's role to look up the inflation calculator. $50 in, let's say, 1869 is equivalent to about $1,191 in 2025 money.
Jesus.
Damn, Meg.
So yeah, Jesus fuck, Meg.
Yeah.
You need better friends. Sally sucks.
Food, $20. Gas, $30. Expensive cloth, $18,000. Can someone who is good at budgeting help me with this?
My family is dying. Two things. In Sally's defense, Sally gets like barely any screen time in this movie. But she is a friend to Meg who is just has the crime of being like upper class and like not understanding her privilege. And like you lose this in the movie. In the book, they're friends for over a decade, even as their social circles wind up being different. Like Sally still hangs out with Meg, still invites her to do things. And when Meg goes to Sally to be like, hey, listen, I couldn't afford that fabric. Will you please buy this from me as a favor? Sally is like, yeah, of course, obviously. So Sally in this movie is just there as peer pressure for sure, but in the book is a very good like minor character. The other thing I was going to say, it also in the book, to Alcott's credit, she does a really good job of contextualizing how expensive $50 is, even in the context of the book. The previous chapter has Jo win a contest, and she gets $100, and she uses that to send Marmee and Beth to the seaside for like 3 months. And Meg used half of that to buy fabric, and it's like, oh no.
I think this is also a good time to kind of just segue into just kind of the reputations all of these sisters have, I guess is the best way of putting it. Obviously, again, spoiler alert for the last episode of this year, we will be talking more about that at length, but pop cultural osmosis, Jo is the most popular March sister, Amy is the least popular one. I really feel like this adaptation has changed that significantly, at least in terms of Amy being hated.
They get parallel arcs, you guys.
You know, it's funny. I was definitely the most like Jo growing up, but I liked Meg and Amy better. Like, the chapter I was most obsessed with was chapter 19, where Amy writes out her will.
Oh, yes. God, I forgot about that one. Yeah. Oh,
it's such a good moment.
It is. She's so dramatic, and I love her very much. And kudos to Gerwig, kudos to the screenwriters. They realized they could have an angle when it comes to Amy that stops the not like other girls syndrome from clouding people's view of her.
So Gerwig is the screenwriter, but really, we need to give some credit to Meryl Streep.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Always.
Meryl
Always.
Streep is the one who pitched Amy's marriage is an economic proposition speech.
I've always known I would marry Rich. Why should I be ashamed of that?
There's nothing to be ashamed of, as long as you love him.
Well, I believe we have some power over who we love. It isn't something that just happens to a person.
I think the poets might disagree.
Well, I'm not a poet. I'm just a woman. And as a woman, there's no way for me to make my own money. Not enough to earn a living or to support my family. And if I had my own money, which I don't, that money would belong to my husband the moment we got married. And if we had children, they would be his, not mine. They would be his property. So don't sit there and tell me that marriage isn't an economic proposition, because it is.
God, that's good. Purely original.
Thank you, Meryl.
Thank you, Meryl.
It's such a good scene.
In this house, we salute Meryl Streep every time.
This scene, handshake.
Not all of us can afford to be romantic. I've been offered a comfortable home and protection. There's a lot to be thankful for.
Jonathan.
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened. So don't judge me, Lizzie. Don't you dare judge me.
And also just, of course, Florence Pugh is a great actress, and this was kind of how she really put herself on the map, and deservedly so. I don't think anyone really puts in a bad performance in this movie.
No, I don't think anyone does. Like, even the weakest performances in the movie are still quite solid, you know? The ones that really have to nail it, like, you know, I'm thinking of Saoirse Ronan and Florence Pugh and Timothée Chalamet. Like, they are all great. They're all top notch, you know? Timothée Chalamet, our favorite little Victorian mouse from the city. Our favorite weird little guy. Always just being a weird little guy again, but he's stuck between his love for two sisters.
I don't like him.
Okay.
Why did he flirt with Meg?
But he's Muad'Dib.
Did he flirt with Meg?
Sam.
I mean, look, Laurie's just kind of like that.
It's called chemistry. I have it with everybody.
I have never seen anything Timothée Chalamet has been in where I have found him to be particularly charismatic or enjoyable to watch. The closest he gets is this movie. I find him very delightful when he joins the girls in their clubhouse and is basically doing the same kind of old man shtick that is borderline Statler and Waldorf and God, Muppets Little Women, please, Muppets Little Women.
Ooh.
Rachel Zegler as Jo. See the vision. But
so Rachel Zegler is the human character. I was about to ask. So okay.
Make the four sisters humans, everybody else is Muppets. Getting back to Chalamet, Florence Pugh got allegations of iPhone face with this movie. I vehemently disagree, but Timothée Chalamet is, at times, I feel, bringing iPhone acting. There is something very modern about his mannerisms, about the way that he talks, and especially in that big scene with Jo. it feels incel-y to me. On one level, it's ironic and it's brooding and all that, but it's also like, Joe, why won't you date me? I'm such a nice guy.
Is that not what happened, though? Sam, I know we read the same book. That's basically what happened.
Yeah, that might be like what he's supposed to be going for there, where it's like, you know, where he's like, oh, I've pined for you for so many years. Like, you know, when are we ever going to get together? And Joe is like, I really love you as a friend, and you're just going to have to deal. I think if you're picking up incel-y, quote-unquote, nice guy vibes, that's probably where it comes from. And I appreciate that, like, Amy calls him out later on, you know, when she's like, you don't get to settle for me just because you know that I love you. And you get a sense where it's like, speaking as a guy.
As a what?
As I am a man.
In our Little Women episode?
Much like Laurie, I have bundled...
No, Joe, he can't be in here. He's a man. This is a women's club, Joe!
Much like Laurie, I stumble out from your rack of clothes into the middle of your play.
Oh God, we really do have the perfect ratio here. Oh my God.
But, okay.
I can die halfway through, that's fine.
No.
Sorry, Connor, finish your point.
Okay, I think there comes a point in every man's life when he is making the move from little boy to little man, where he has a little woman tell him to get his shit together because she's not going to deal with it, and she loves him, but, you know, she's not going to deal with his bullshit, whether it be 1868 or 2025. Sorry, I had to look at the calendar again. And I think that there is a bit of that. We don't see a lot of it because this is not Laurie's story. This is the March sisters' story. So we don't really follow Laurie getting his shit together, putting all of his shit and getting into a backpack and, you know, getting it all together. I think it is rough by the time Joe sees him again, and she's decided that actually marrying Laurie would be okay. And he's like, actually, you know what, Joe, you're right. I was a complete fool. I have changed as a person. I have grown. I recognize it was kind of foolish. It was just youthful infatuation. Thanks for calling me on my bullshit. I've got a lot of learning to do.
Also, I convinced your sister to settle for me.
It's a practical proposal. It makes a certain sense.
I don't really buy it as settling, though. I think, and maybe it's different in the book, but I think there is a point where like there you have that scene where Amy goes,
I have been second to Joe my whole life in everything, and I will not be the person you settle for just because you cannot have her. I won't do it. I won't, not when I've spent my entire life loving you.
It's not that he's settling for her now. It's that I'm not saying Amy should be with Fred Vaughn. Yeah, but I feel like Amy could still do better.
That's fair. I will also say, Sam, as somebody who does not have this big nostalgic attachment to this book, who only just read it this year, yeah, no, this is very accurate to how I read Laurie in the book, unfortunately.
See, as someone who also reread it this year, like, I think part of what is missing is that the movie rightfully is focused on the March sisters, which I think is really admirable in a 2-hour runtime. You do lose out on the interiority that is given to Laurie in the book. You lose out on the sort of romantic friendship that is there between Joe and Laurie as you are reading the book. And if you go into it knowing that, oh, Joe doesn't love him, it is kind of like a long-going car crash where in part 1, you can pinpoint the moment where Laurie realizes, oh no, I am in love with this girl. And there's a real like anguish and heartfelt despair between the two of them during that proposal scene that I think is missing in the movie. And I think a lot of that has to do with the choice that I disagree with the strongest in this adaptation, which is to have Joe regret turning Laurie down.
Yes, I was not happy.
I get what it's going for. I dislike what it's going for, though, because it is using Laurie as another sort of rivalry between Joe and Amy. Much like the book, this movie is predominantly concerned with Joe and Amy in terms of screen time and narrative, which makes sense, but by adding this extra layer in where Joe, rather than as she is in the book, where being joyful that Laurie and Amy have found each other, that they are suitable for one another.
Like, oh, thank God, I don't have to worry about either of their hearts.
Her boy and her sister are happy together. She's regretful. It's a moment where Amy has once again gotten something that Jo wanted, and I really dislike that take.
I've turned down many in adaptation because, like, there's even a new book out called Jo and Laurie, in which it's like a second chance romance with them, and I'm just like, no.
I won't marry Jo to Laurie to please anyone.
Yeah, so that's part of it, because here's the thing. Growing up reading the book, I was blindsided by Laurie trying to propose to Jo. I was also blindsided by Laurie and Amy getting together. Maybe I was just too young. Maybe that was my little demi ass not getting it because I didn't feel like they built a connection. But in the movie, it feels like Greta Gerwig was trying to address the problem of people being like, oh, no, Jo and Laurie were who we shipped. People were trying to bully Lou Alcott into doing it, and Alcott went, fuck you. Not in those exact words, but I think that in trying to give more of a foundation to the relationship between Laurie and Amy so that we could see it and believe in it more, that ended up taking away from the relationship of Jo and Laurie to the point where it feels much more informed than anything else. And it also, this is not unique to this movie, but there's almost this kind of weird queer dynamic with Jo and Meg.
Yeah. It's kind of like how, you'll hear stories about little kids who say they want to marry like their parents or their older siblings because they don't quite grasp what marriage actually is because, they're too young.
Yeah, in the book, Jo even tells Marmee that she wishes she was a man so she could marry Meg herself, which, like, you can read as Jo is a baby lesbian, but the only important women in her life are her family, and so she's projecting on it. Like, you can make the argument there. And so I was surprised that they kind of kept that in with the Jo and Meg moment before her wedding. That said, I do appreciate what that does there, having Meg directly turn to the audience and say, just because my story is about becoming a mother doesn't mean it's not important, which, the screen time and the tone of the book says differently, but it is an admirable thing to say.
It was an attempt. They at least tried to be all, hey, just because she doesn't have career goals doesn't make her any less important. That is something we're still struggling with to this day.
And we did kind of get a way to have our cake and eat it, because Meg appears to be like a drama teacher now at Jo's school in the ending tracking shot scene.
God, I love that ending tracking shot scene so goddamn much.
It's really sweet.
The whole movie has got some wonderful cinematography. Like, it's a beautifully shot film.
Beautifully shot. Again, just has these really nice, chaotic, yet cozy, familial vibes.
Y'all heard it here, folks. Greta Gerwig, good director.
I want to give a shout out to Chris Cooper, because goddamn, I was not expecting to feel as viscerally for Mr. Lawrence as I did.
Yeah, in both of the Beth Mr. Lawrence scenes, I was tearing up. Chris Cooper and Eliza Scanlon do such a lovely job in their scenes together.
It's crazy, because I knew I had recognized the actress playing Beth, and then when I looked at it, I was like, oh, I just saw you playing Cecily in The Importance of Being Earnest a few months ago. Wow, talk about range. Good for you, girl.
On the other hand, I appreciate Chris Cooper's range. I still have the cognitive of dissonance. Like, that's not Mr. Lawrence. That's just Tex Richmond in a funny mustache.
And boy, is it a funny mustache.
And chops. I was like, he kind of looks like David Hyde Pierce, or at least how he looked in the Penzance revival.
But the line about, I couldn't go in there knowing she wouldn't be there.
Speaking of characters that kind of get the shaft in pop cultural osmosis, Beth. All she wants to do is play music with her family.
Rest in peace, Beth March. You would have loved the score to Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
I have my quibbles with the novel. Even as a kid, I loved Beth early on because she gets a lot of spotlight early on. And then gradually throughout the book, it becomes apparent that Lou Alcott, because she is basing Beth so heavily on her sister who did die of long-term complications of scarlet fever, that the character of Beth is put on a pedestal that Alcott is unwilling or unable to remove her from. And so Beth just becomes more and more saintly, more and more doomed by the narrative as the book goes on. And even as a kid, it was like, why aren't we getting Beth chapters? I miss seeing Beth. But I do really appreciate how Beth is portrayed in this movie. She has a spark to her because we're not as concerned with the bosom sins or the Pilgrim's Progress of it all. Like, Beth's shyness isn't as big of a factor. She feels more like a person, even with less screen time and less emphasis. And I really love what we do get to see of Beth.
I think my favorite line of hers was, "I'm very sick and you must do what I say."
Yes, it's like, yay, we let Beth be funny.
Maybe that's what I need to do to finish writing my book. I need to hole up in an attic wearing an awesome coat, writing my story by hand in candlelight.
Honestly, as much as I love the vibes of that montage, God, I'm so glad I can just save a file.
No one's stopping you from going out to the beach. They should bring back going out to the ocean to cure
what ails you. Yeah.
It would fix me. Yeah. Speaking of awesome coat.
How about those costumes? They won costumes this year.
I like the overall vibes of the costumes, even if sometimes it doesn't quite work. It has a very sort of like homespun, almost like theatrical quality to it in a way that I really enjoy. I love the layering. I love the reuse of stuff. And without concerns for the historicity, I love Jo's wardrobe in this. She is a gender. She is the moment.
Yes.
She's 2014 Tumblr. She's Senorita Awesome.
Yeah, I just the vests, the poet shirts, the skirts and the trousers and everything. It's great.
She is ready for her period lesbian drama. Oh, wait, she was already in one of those.
And if only this was one of them.
We will get to that.
I can't believe this lost score to Joker.
So this beat The Irishman, Jojo Rabbit, Joker, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which frustrates me because really the movie that I would have given best costumes to this year would have been Harriet. It would have been Paul Tazewell's work in Harriet, which I think did a much better job not only of capturing the period that this movie is taking place in, because just think about this, the movie Harriet is technically running concurrently with Little Women.
Yeah.
Hell of a double feature. But I feel like Tazewell did a much better job of capturing not only like the silhouettes of the period, but what it means for the poverty aspect of things. Because, Violet, I think you were onto something when you said that it had a theatrical quality to it. The Marches costumes often look way too nice. Like, I don't see a lot of patches or wearing in on their clothes. Everything looks very bright, and what's more, it looks tailored to the characters. And one of the things you would definitely see is how the things would get passed down from sister to sister in a kind of experience like this. And I think it was a really missed opportunity for the costumes to not like kind of work their way down the line and you see how each sister maybe wears the outfits differently.
Yeah, there was one instance of reusing costumes between the sisters that I noticed. The lawn pink skirt that Beth wears on Christmas to bring to the Hummels, Meg is wearing later on when the four of them are walking and Amy goes to school. So that was a repeat. And occasionally Jo is wearing like some of Laurie's vests or hats and whatnot, but that's it. And I think because it's not as concerned with the overall passage of time, you have kind of the two time periods that you do miss out on the sort of hand-me-down opportunities. That said, it's interesting that as much as this adaptation does emphasize a woman's place in the world and how does a woman support her family and herself and make a livelihood, it's not really concerned with the fact that the Marches are poor. That's almost downplayed because you don't have the emphasis on how they are earning money as children or the fact that they aren't as rich. So it's interesting that as much as this movie cares about money, it doesn't care about the fact that the Marches are poor.
Like, kind of like Gilmore Girls in a sense, but...
Yeah. Yeah, Gilmore Girls is such an inspiration on this.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it makes sense because I'm sure there was definitely some Little Women DNA in Gilmore Girls.
I bet Aunt March and Emily have bitch fest together.
Either that or she's just Aunt March reincarnated.
Get Kelly Bishop in a Little Women.
Connor, do you know what they're talking about?
Oh, Kelly Bishop as Aunt March.
I'm way too masculine for this conversation. I'm sorry.
Careful, I was very tempted to pitch a Gilmore Girls rewatch podcast to Charlie, so... Only if someone else edits. Only if someone else edits.
Good luck with that.
Anyway, but yes, did you want to rant more about the costumes, Sam, or was that it?
No, I think I've pretty thoroughly exhausted what I really wanted to, except maybe to say that I hate Meg's dress in the section that's based on Meg Goes to Vanity Fair. Partially, I hate it because it reminds me of the 2004 Phantom of the Opera, and just thinking about that movie leaves a bad taste in my mouth. But it also, I feel like that entire chapter, it's emblematic of kind of missing what was so bad about the whole thing, because we skipped over the part where Meg basically goes through this fall. And yeah, it's one of those chapters that is super moralizing and Christian and everything. But what I really loved about it was that Meg didn't realize, oh shit, this was terrible because Laurie called her out on it. It was because she overheard people calling her a fool and saying they're making an idiot out of her, and realizing, oh God, they are, and I let them. And I feel like that was a much stronger beat. And it would have been a better balance with the eventual thing with Sally and the dress. Because, like, it would be a reinforcement to Meg, like, you learned this lesson already. You have to stop thinking about what other people think of you. You have to stop trying to impress these kinds of people.
Yeah, like, part of my trouble with the chapter as it stands in the book, which is, like, for folks that don't know, Meg is invited to stay with Sally and her friends. Meg has only her own, like, few possessions and hand-me-downs. She goes to a couple of parties, and it's only after a couple of days with the girls, and she is feeling self-conscious about her own lack of material possessions, that they offer to let her borrow something after she had overheard them pitying her. And so it's because she had overheard them pitying her that she agrees. And then she goes to the party. Laurie snubs her. She overhears some people saying, oh, they made a fool out of that girl. She's dressed too grown up now. She looked so wonderful in her other stuff. I dislike how Meg is frequently punished by the novel for having her vanities, wanting nice things, because
it's giving, like, Susan Pevensey.
It's giving Susan Pevensey. And as I said, Meg's crime is just being a teenage girl who wants to look pretty and have fun with her friends. And so I don't mind that it was downplayed in this adaptation, because, like, the real crime is that, like, Meg is listening to other people and letting them inform her opinion of herself, which is also true when Laurie and she overhears the other people talking about her. Like it's only through hearing what other people think of her that Meg's, like, self-worth can be determined.
Maybe this whole scene kind of just has bad, how dare you be a teenage girl who wants to look nice and fit in vibes. Maybe there's just no way of saving it.
I always, growing up, I read it more as, like, the dangers of peer pressure thing, because I very distinctly remember, like, the illustrations where Meg seems, like, basically unrecognizable from how she looked in the other illustrations. And, like, I remember her getting champagne, and the book was making a big deal of, like, she's not talking like herself. She's not acting like herself. And yeah, sometimes you do need external people to say, hey, you're acting weird. But I think what bugs me about this movie is putting it solely in Laurie's mouth.
Yeah.
Kind of, like, I don't think the script has that great a handle on what they want Laurie to be, and so Laurie is just kind of whatever he needs to be in a given scene to whichever March sister he is with.
But again, I feel like that there's a lot of that in the book too. Like, he's almost kind of like their unofficial little brother almost.
Right. I think what the thing is, though, in the book, he's not Timothée Chalamet. like, it's easier for Laurie to blend in the book than it is in the movie, because I don't care for him much as an actor, but Timothée Chalamet is not someone you can ignore.
Yeah, no, there's a version of me who was born like 10, 15 years later who definitely would have had a crush on him.
Yeah. Timothée Chalamet is the exact same age as my brother, same year, same day, which is
it's
so
weird,
funny
right?
to me.
It feels weird having the heartthrob of a generation being your younger sibling's age. It's very weird.
Yeah, exactly. And like, this is the first thing I've seen him in. Like, I've managed to miss the rest of his filmography. And like, he's fine. I think it's a credit to his direction and how he is embodying the character that Laurie is as much of a presence in this movie without as much screen time and time for his own plot line in comparison to the book, where even though it does kind of come out of left field for Laurie and Amy to get together at the end, like there are several chapters dedicated to setting it up. It's more of a gradual passage of time and a gradual falling in love with one another that feels more earned in comparison to this movie. But it's a testament to Timothée Chalamet and Florence Pugh that they do sell it.
Yeah, I was about to say they do have excellent chemistry kind of from the get-go. So one of my first notes I wrote was like, oh no, they're actually quite cute.
I mean, Florence Pugh is rarely not cute. I love when she does her little scrunchy face.
Oh yeah,
her funny little downturned mouth is so good.
Listen, of course, Florence Pugh is always very cute, very attractive. I just mean like them together. They actually do make a cute couple.
One of my first notes was also like, do I actually buy this romance? Question mark?
Yeah, they kind of achieved it. Again, considering how, again, Amy is the least popular March sister, it is actually really admirable that this movie took the time to be all, well, hey, hold on a second. Let's think about this. Let's give her some more depth here. Just because she's not just like Joe does not mean she isn't a worthy character.
Just because she's the youngest sibling does not mean she's that much of a menace.
And also, who among us hasn't done something catastrophic to our siblings and or family at 12?
Yeah, like, I think that's the one problem with casting Florence Pugh and not, like, doing what the 94 movie did with having Kirsten Dunst and then other actress whose name I don't remember. I'm so sorry.
To be fair, she's in like 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
Samantha Mathis, that's what her name.
Samantha Mathis.
Yeah,
sorry, Samantha Mathis. But yeah, like, 12-year-olds are monsters, and Florence Pugh can play a monster really, really well, but she plays a mature monster.
Yeah, we're really supposed to believe she's 12. Okay.
Well, I don't think we're meant to believe she's 12, but we're definitely meant to believe she's a teenager, which, no. And that, again, speaks to the sort of theatrical quality of this film, where you just kind of have to take on faith that the actors are playing their characters as both teenagers and 20-somethings. I would like to see a version of Little Women where you cast different casts between part 1 and part 2, so you have actual teenagers.
Or get Richard Linklater on the line and...
Yeah, the boyhood version of Little Women would be really interesting. One of the actors will die partway through.
No.
Verisimilitude, guy.
Well, in this case, I want verisimilitude compromised.
There is actually something to the idea that, like, I made a note of it a couple of times. Like, I'm trying to remember. I think it was the 1950s. There's a version where Elizabeth Taylor plays Amy, and they swapped Amy and Beth so that Beth was the youngest. And they don't ever, like, explicitly say it, or maybe they do. I think they might say Amy is the youngest, but it still kind of feels like Beth is the youngest. Beth feels like the baby.
Well, yeah. It's because she's the shyer one. She's the one who didn't even go to school because possibly autistic coded, maybe. I don't know. And also, it's kind of circling back to the theatricality of it all, considering the fact we kind of do have almost a framing device of Jo pitching her novel, and also just the fact that they have always put on like these cute little plays. You could absolutely make the argument that this is just kind of how Jo is seeing it. This is like, I don't know about you, I sometimes have a hard time picturing people I knew back then as not how they are now. Like, you could absolutely see it as this is how Joe remembers it.
Yeah. One of my best friends now has very short hair. Up until her wedding, or shortly after her wedding, she had like long waist length hair that she immediately cut off after she got married. Hi, Elise, if you're listening to the podcast. And I truly cannot picture her with long hair at this point.
Yeah, every so often B shaves and I go, what the fuck did you do? Suddenly B is baby-faced. I'm like, wait, no.
My father has done that a couple of times. I feel that.
Yeah.
It's like, no, keep the beard, Dad, please.
I don't think Professor Bear would be as hot as he was if he didn't have the beard.
Yeah, should we talk Professor Bear?
Speaking of like being sold on the Amy and Laurie romance, I was really sold on Joe and Bear in this. I like the casting of Bear as a younger actor, so you have less of the age gap, and like they have a very fun, friendly dynamic. Even when she's upset with him for not liking her stories. Again, taking the morality out of Little Women, I really enjoyed the emphasis on Joe's sort of temper in that scene. It's a different framing of how it is in the book, but I think it works really well for what is being done with the characters here.
I have never related more to a character than I did Joe in like the first 10 to 15 minutes of this, because I too have struggled to sell my short stories and get given $20 for them, and then I too have handed my work to someone who I admire for them to critique it and then get really mad when they tell me it's not as good as I thought it was. So here's to the real journey, the real character arc of Little Women. Joe going from that to, at the end of the movie, getting notes back from her editor and going, okay, boss.
Yeah.
And that is why I can forgive the umbrella scene, because I have such complicated feelings of Bear as a character. I actually quite liked him in the book for the most part. Hated that they wrote them together by the end. I knew it was coming, but I still hated it. It felt so out of left field.
Well, you have to make sure she's either married or dead.
Looking directly at the audience, yeah.
I am sure Alcott did it at gunpoint, basically. But, like, I was starting to get real mad when I realized they were going to adapt it. But then we got to the publisher saying, okay, but then who does she marry? And it's just like, I see you, Gerwig. I see you doing the meta-narrative. I see you giving yourself plausible deniability. And I respect you for it. Thank you very much.
The meta is so overt. Like, Joe gets the same deal Alcott got for royalties and copyright. And that deal let Alcott take care of the entire family until death.
Living the dream of every author. I wrote one book and I got to live on it for the rest of my life.
Yep, that's what we want.
That's write a lot of other weird shit.
You just want that one big commercial hit that lets you go ahead and make the freaky little shit you wanted to make.
It's called Lost in a Pyramid or The Mummy's Curse. Somebody burns a mummy in a tomb because they got trapped in there. He comes back with like this bag full of cursed seeds, which he destroys, except he didn't destroy one of them and his fiance was growing it, and the flower that grows from it is cursed and kills the fiance.
Fascinating.
From the author of Little Women.
Alcott wrote some weird shit.
Yeah, she wanted to write weird shit. She didn't like writing Little Women. And I, like, similar to the meta stuff, I do like that they bring it in where she's like, I think it's dull. Alcott's own editor thought it was dull. And then his daughters or nieces read it and was like, no, this is great, actually.
No, seriously, I adore the bit with the publisher's kids where they're just like, well, what happens next? What happened to the Little Women?
And you can almost see the dollar signs appear in his eyes. I can market this to children.
Yeah, we're going to make $1 million off this. We're going to make whatever the equivalent of $1 million is in 1868.
Yes.
I just wanted to ask, while we're on the subject of Joe selling her book, like, did anyone else find the scene where Joe watches the book get printed and bound, like, with as much satisfaction as I did? I was like, oh, that,
absolutely.
Oh, that's my shit
really
right
lovely.
there.
100%. Actually, to the point where I wrote in my notes, and I made this my letterboxd review, this movie is good enough that we are probably never going to get a biopic of Lou Alcott in my lifetime. Because there is nothing that can top that sequence as, like, the bow on top.
You got a point. You got a point.
Before we pivot elsewhere, I'm torn over the sort of ambiguous ending with Friedrich and Joe at the end. Like, I like the meta aspect of it. I like the did it really happen? Is it just for the book? Given the fact that, you know, Jo as a spinster feels so satisfying. And like even in the novel Little Women, as much as I do enjoy Bear for the most part, their relationship isn't as satisfying at the end as Laurie and Amy is. That said, I think I would like the ambiguity more in this movie if we didn't have the Jo pining after Laurie bit earlier. I think, like, the way that Little Women decides to add tension and stakes after killing Beth in the film doesn't quite work for me because it is all focused on messing with Jo's relationships or romantic prospects in a way that doesn't feel true to the character.
With that said, I do wonder how much of the motivation of having Jo regret things is because she's grieving and kind of try to cling to something, anything that feels stable.
Yeah, but like given, you know, the sort of shippers and the fangirlies and whatnot, it almost... I wouldn't be surprised if it was Gerwig saying, I'm also a Jo Laurie shipper in a way.
Probably.
Like, it just feels weird to me and like kind of... It prevents me from giving this film 5 stars.
Same.
Speaking of Beth's death, I do love the juxtaposition of Bob Odenkirk jump scare with
Like, I know everyone calls it the jump scare, but no, I thought that was so sweet. Like, just the surprise of him being able to be home for Christmas. Like, come on. This is the shit
it's
that
not
Christmas...
the moment. It's that
sweet.
it's sweet. You just don't expect Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah,
I guess.
Well, if you weren't expecting Bob Odenkirk, who would you have cast?
Touche.
He does a perfectly fine job. He's a good actor.
But also, that's not Mr. March. That's Saul Goodman in period clothes.
It's the Fishes episode of The Bear where you're like, is that John Mulaney? How many guest stars do we have in this episode? What
is that Jamie Lee Curtis?
Yeah.
That's the problem I had more with Laura Dern than anything, or at least for the introductory scene for Marmee, she doesn't feel like the Marmee I remember from the book. In the same way that I had issues with a lot of Chalamet's mannerisms, Marmee's introduction, she feels very energetic and modern and vivacious, and Marmee in my head is always much more dignified and reserved. And she has some great moments of that later on, particularly during the whole saga of Amy's bout of pyromania. But for that intro, it doesn't feel like how I would expect you to introduce Marmee.
I do get that, but this is clearly not the March family from the book. This is a much more modern one. For the most part, Marmee as a character in the book kind of annoyed me. I prefer her being a bit of more of a fun mom. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And with that said, like, if there's one scene in the novel that I'm so glad got so perfectly translated in the movie, it is the conversation that you mentioned between Marmee and Jo, in which Marmee confesses that she has that same anger that Jo has. And it took her a very long time to learn how to manage it. It's like, that hit me where I lived. I have very much felt that. But also, that's my secret, Jo. I'm always angry.
Like, women. Not particularly large women. Not particularly big women. But little women.
What if a woman was little?
But not a child, because that is...
Yeah. What if a woman?
A singular women.
Well, you can have a little women as a treat.
What if we reduced the size of the women so that we could pack them better in for transportation? Women were bigger when I was a child. They're little now. They're little now.
Laura Dern as Marmee, I do enjoy, and the thing that bugs me about the introduction scene is you have her going, call me mother or Marmee, everyone does. And it, like, the line's kind of cringy, but like, I get why you need to explain to the audience why they call her Marmee.
It's the sweet, chaotic family dynamic that I love to see so much.
Yeah, and it's juxtaposed with how the Lawrence household is. So I understand why they do it. Overall, I do enjoy Laura Dern in this role. I was surprised and honestly kind of delighted at how tense Mr. and Mrs. March's relationship is in this movie, where you get to see some of Mrs. March's anger with him. And I wonder how much of that was based on Lou Alcott's own parents, because like Branson Alcott did a real number on his kids based basically refused to work because he was too busy being a transcendentalist. And so a lot of it was put on his wife and his children.
Ooh. Too busy touching grass. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Too busy touching grass, too busy trying to make communes work.
Yeah, and people were giving him shit for that even in the day. Mr. Alcott, you can't just keep picking and choosing philosophies from everybody.
Yeah. And he said, Cope, have you tried touching grass?
Sounds like he was a clown deadbeat making clown excuses for his clown behavior.
What's everyone's favorite scene in this movie?
Everyone in funny mustaches and the drag show.
Yep, it's a baby drag king act.
I mean, peak male performance is top hat, funny mustache.
And including like their little newspaper with the weekly stats of good, very good, bad, middling.
Yeah. The amount of the March sister games that make it into this movie is really delightful.
It's one of the most charming things about them, I think.
Yeah.
There are some great scenes. I think I would have to say the scene in which, Joe is talking to the publisher, her editor, and they're discussing the business deal and also discussing like the end of the book. And it cuts between their conversation and the moment itself, where she goes after Bear. And so you have this wonderful juxtaposition of this kind of classic romantic climax, it's raining, there two of them are caught underneath an umbrella, so they have to be close together.
She chased him to the train station. Her sisters were meddling. Listen, if it wasn't for Joe March, I would probably be livid. This is the good rom-com shit.
It's great.
Joe March believes in marriage, but only for the tax benefits.
Honestly, like, if they had made it very clear that Professor Bear was gay and this was a lavender marriage, also would have taken that. Professor Bear, more like Professor Bear.
That's not the body type for a bear. He'd be more Professor Otter.
Or, hear me out, Professor, it is not too late for you to be Frederica.
It is not too late. There is still time.
Okay, maybe I'm incorrect here, but I mean, he is an incredibly handsome Frenchman. That man has had lovers both in all genders.
This is fair. This is true.
He's an incredibly handsome Frenchman living in New York City, spends his night dancing at a co-ed, and lives at a co-ed boarding house. And that man has shared many beds with many people and has loved them all equally.
There is no heterosexual explanation for Professor Bear. You got a point.
Yeah.
Frederick Bear looks at Joe March and is like, this non-binary forest sprite has bewitched me body and soul.
Yeah. I knew he was the one when he said my short story needed work.
You know what? I think I'm starting to buy into this, guys. I think I'm starting to buy into this. Thank you.
And that's why Rory and Logan is also valid.
Well, let's not go that far.
To some extent.
God, I'm torn because there are so many good scenes. I do really like the introduction of Joe and Laurie, the two of them dancing outside of the house, and just basically being teenagers. Anytime that this movie is like, hello, Little Women is about teenagers for half the book, I'm like, hell yeah, great time. I also really love the first Beth piano Mr. Lawrence sequence where he comes and he just sits on the staircase and like almost starts absently pretending like his own daughter that he had lost is there. Like, as I said, I was tearing up. I thought it was a really lovely scene. And I really love those sort of quiet moments that are found in this movie.
Yeah, this movie does emotions.
I will shout out Amy's manifesto.
Yes.
Fucking A-grade audition monologue material right there.
Amen. Absolute snaps for that.
Thank you, Greta. Thank you, Meryl. Thank you, Florence.
We officially have like a shorthand. We have like two shorthands for, hey, assholes, it can be really hard to be a woman, actually, in this movie. How lucky we are for that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know what? As much as we joke about the women thing, it does have a whole thing beyond just a meme for women enjoyers. It is about hating the fact that it's expected that you are going to pair up with some dude, but also how lonely it is being aware that there's more to life than that, because it makes it harder for you to find a dude that you may want to pair up with, or a person you may want to pair up with.
I just feel like women, they have minds and they have souls as well as just hearts.
and they've got ambition, and they've got talent, as well as just beauty. And I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. I'm so sick of it. But I'm so lonely.
It speaks on a heteronormative level, but it also speaks to sort of like the aro ace experience. It's something that I think can be universal, which I think is almost unexpected from this very focused coming of age story. And it feels like that particular monologue does sort of lay the groundwork for what Gerwig does later on in Barbie with America Ferrera's monologue.
Absolutely.
I'm just so tired of watching myself and every single other woman tie herself into knots so that people will like us.
But yeah, as someone who is decidedly not heteronormative in any way, shape, or form, yeah, shocking, I know.
But I felt especially seen. I spent my entire life feeling like I both so value my independence, but I also so desperately want to be loved. And the moment I realized I was queer, I knew that was going to be even harder. And no, it has never gotten easier for me.
Conor, as the token hetero, do you want to, or the token hetero Mary, I will not choose to presume whatever interests you may have. I just know that you are married to a very wonderful woman.
Yep, you two are madly in love and it's adorable.
Oh.
Do you feel represented?
I think there's some very strong points made there where it's like there's this emphasis placed on the idea that in that time frame or in the fiction or what have you, in the meta narrative, a female character, especially a female protagonist, must end up either in a marriage or in the grave. I think Gerwig is interested in using Little Women as an examination of that, but it is also an examination of the fact that even if you're not interested in that kind of life for yourself, we all still long for companionship. Perhaps that does play a part, I think, in all four of the March sisters in their individual journeys, is how they reconcile a need to be their own person with a need for companionship of some kind. It doesn't necessarily mean romantic. I think that Beth and Mr. Lawrence give each other a feeling of companionship that is, quite paternal in a way, but it's something that they both seek out. And you can point out the fact that in the end, there is a sort of, the girls who did not pass away leaves them in sort of like these very happy heteronormative relationships, but it also, I don't think it makes that like an easy conclusion for any of them. They have to reach a point where they can include love, include companionship, include romantic companionship with who they are as people. And so it's exploring a complex idea about as delicately as I think you could probably hope for. I think Gerwig does that a lot. You see it in Barbie as well. That's exploring complex topics, and she does it as delicately as she can in that film. And I think she does it here as well. So speaking as the token straight dude of this episode, and taking it from that perspective as well, because that's my perspective. I have to understand that, that is my perspective of this piece, which is going to be very different to the perspective that each of you have to it, coming from it from a position of your gender, sexual orientation, of your existence, living in what society calls feminine bodies, regardless of how you might perceive yourself. And maybe Gerwig is trying to do the same thing. That's her perspective of the story.
I'd like to think so. And I mean, that's kind of the whole thing. Like, I always say one of the reasons why I will never actually be upset if someone is making yet another adaptation of anything, even A Christmas Carol, because I know everyone's sick of that one in particular. No two people are going to do the same exact thing with the same source material. They're just not.
Yeah. There will be as many Christmas carols as there are billionaires in need of scaring.
Exactly that too. But since it is that time of year by the time this episode drops, I think it is like that last tracking shot where we see the entire family just helping Jo run her school. I think that is my favorite. It's kind of the perfect ending.
It is a wonderful way to end it.
The family's all together, educating these kids, all doing what they do best. And it's just very heartwarming to see that they've stuck together through all this adversity and are now passing on whatever wisdom they have to the next generation.
Needed more Pilgrim's Progress.
Gillian!
No.
I'm joking for all legal reasons.
We didn't really talk about her, but I love Hannah. Hannah is awesome.
Hannah is always awesome, yes.
I know you don't care what I think, but you don't want your mother to find you like this, do you?
Of course we care what you think,
You're
Hannah.
more family than wicked old Aunt Maud.
We love a maid figure character who they treat like family and is not afraid to call them out on their bullshit, but also loves them very much.
Love some Jane Hodenshell. Love Mary Ann Plunkett as the boarding house.
Mm.
And that is enough about me and character actresses.
Also, Disney, I swear to God, Muppet Little Women. Come on. I will find you, Iger.
Sam the Eagle, Mr. Lawrence.
Yes!
You've already cast Rachel Zegler. Who else plays, like, if the March sisters are all going to be humans, who plays the other March sisters? Putting
Emma
you on the spot.
Myers, Amy?
I could see it. I'm not sure if she's quite baby enough. Honestly, I think it would be really funny to have, like, small Amy be a Muppet, and then she grows into human Amy.
Interesting.
God.
It literally changed from a little puppet to a little woman.
Although, honestly, if Rachel Zegler is going to be Joe, maybe we should have all Latina marches.
Yeah.
True. Melissa Barrera Meg.
Yes!
Ooh.
Please.
Or we could also, like, Cinderella 99 it.
We could Cinderella 99 it if we wanted to, yes.
I feel like Jenna Ortega a similar energy to
Yeah.
Amy as Florence Pugh
Yeah.
does. So if we want that kind of vibe.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be fun.
That just leaves Beth, and I'm trying not to think about Tiny Tim Robin and being like, okay, but if we put Robin in a wig.
No.
Bean Bunny!
No, not Bean Bunny!
Bean Bunny's been through so much.
Yeah, seriously, no.
Bean Bunny, my beloved.
Beth should be a real girl.
Would we have to end Muppet Little Women with Gonzo going, and Beth, who, for the purposes of this children's movie, did not die?
Oh, isn't that swell?
They get to that point in the movie, and Gonzo just pulls out the film reel, sticks it in the freezer, and is like, let's go in a different direction.
Yeah, no, because Rizzo's gonna be like, she's gonna die? This is supposed to be a kid's movie.
Need Miss Piggy to karate chop the personification of Scarlet Fever.
Yes.
That's how Beth lives.
Played by Uncle Deadly, of course.
Scarlet Fever is a douchebag neighbor who
tries to eat her like he's Cookie Monster or something.
Oh my god.
Next time in our retellings.
Clearly.
I guess my final thought before we get into why Little Women endures is, like, I'm coming to this 6 years late. I know that it was very popular.
Yeah.
And I know that folks, like, and rightfully so, now that the hype has died down, I really admire how evident it is that Greta Gerwig has a real love and affection for the source material and is not afraid to deviate from it, to the way that she adapts the spirit of the novel, and it feels like it has her own sort of take on what is important and what she wants to use this story to emphasize, I think is just as admirable as any 100% accurate, like, book to film adaptation. It's done with a lot of skill and a lot of love.
Yeah, it's shocking how faithful it is to the novel while still being willing to update it and, in my opinion, upgrade it.
Yeah.
So, why does Little Women endure?
Women, coming of age.
Because our moms give us the book sometimes if you happen to be a New Englander in the area. But also, just in general, it's cozy. Like, you said it yourself when we started this, Jazz. It's a warm blanket and a mug. It's that nostalgia of childhood distilled into a book.
Yeah, I think for all my issues with the novel now, part of the reason why it does endure is that it's an early look at and a coming of age for young women in the United States that feels very timeless, even as it is rooted in a specific time period, a specific morality. And the aspects of the novel that I think stuck with me and based on pop culture stuck with a lot of other people are the bits that are less tied to the sort of morality and the instructional stuff and is more focused on the family unit, the relationships between them, what it means to find your place in the world and determine how you are living your life. And it's persevered because of that.
I completely agree. I think it perseveres because, as has been already said, coming of age stories persevere. Although the time period may change, some difficult obstacles we face as we grow, they remain eternal. I think it's one of those stories that focuses a lot on the experience of young women. And because, unfortunately, there aren't a lot of stories with that focus that have a lot of mainstream appeal, it endures for that reason as well. This is not a knock on the story. It is kind of more of a knock on how maybe we need to make more of those. Maybe there need to be some more of those, and they need to get the same kind of love that Little Women gets 150 plus years later.
It's one of those stories that reminds you that there are just going to be certain aspects of humanity that don't change. Like, even if this takes place in the Civil War, I think most people who read it will find a sister to relate to. And not for nothing, if I'm not mistaken, this was actually pretty revolutionary at its time, just in terms of it's literally just about these girls growing up. Even if Joe March or Lou Alcott thought it was dull, like, just because it's not this grand adventure or anything doesn't mean that it's not still important. Final thoughts or plugs?
Is it too gauche to make another women reference?
Not at all. Never. We are all women enjoyers on this here pod.
Women. Thank you.
I just think women.
To add to that, women.
Greta Gerwig, I hope that you continue to evolve as an artist and to keep recognizing when you get criticism and trying to adjust it and keep moving forward. I hope that you continue to improve and, hopefully maybe one day get that Oscar that I think you do really want. And also, I am watching your whole Netflix thing with caution. I don't know. I'm hopeful that you won't be doing really weird stuff, but I don't know. I heard Meryl Streep Aslan, and part of me was like, yes, and also part of me was like, well, I don't think we need to inflate Meryl's ego further by making her furry Jesus.
I, for one, look forward to seeing what she does with the Chronicles of Narnia.
Daniel Craig is Uncle Andrew. Mwah! Chef's kiss. Good casting.
Hell yeah.
Who's got stuff to plug?
I am the host of 6 Degrees of Star Wars, the podcast where we explore all the ways George Lucas's flagship franchise surrounds us, binds us, and penetrates us in the landscape of cinema. As the droid mentioned at the beginning of this movie is eligible, so it'll show up there at some point. All of these lovely people have guested in the past, and I'm also bouncing around the internet as Demisem, and I really hope that when this episode comes out, the government shutdown will not still be happening, but in case it is, or even if it isn't, check on your local food banks and stuff, because people are probably still not doing great on that side of things.
I am one half of Third Country Press. You can find us on itch.io. If you want to find us directly, it's third-country-press.itch.io. My wife Katie and I, we make adventures for independent RPGs, we make supplements, we make our own little mini games, we make zines, and most of it is pay what you want, and the stuff that's not pay what you want is like $3, so you have no excuse. You can also find us on BFF.fm, where we host Third Country Radio every Thursday morning, 2 hours of music and conversation. Each week has a different theme to it, and we have a lot of fun. We have lots of talk and play some awesome music, especially from a lot of independent artists. And you can find me if you really do want to hear more of my rambles or just see what I like and repost. You can just find me on Blue Sky. I am young Mr. Duffy on Blue Sky.
I am Cutie Puppy Fire on socials. I have not been super active at the time of recording. Maybe I'll keep it up by the time this releases. Maybe. Women. Okay, had to get the important out of the way. Women. That is all.
Yeah, you can find me at women. You can find me on Blue Sky and Tumblr at Momentary Horrors. And I also write and design small TTRPG supplements. You can find those on itch.io. The URL will be in the description for the episode, but it's violet-floor.itch.io.
You and the Duffies need to bounce some ideas off each other.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And I'm going to second Sam's recommendation. Please look into local food banks. I am sure they could use your help, even if technically the shutdown is over, especially with the holidays coming up. And as for me, you can find me at Faye Rivera on all of the socials. It's a necessary evil, especially for this podcast, where you can find us on Twitter and Blue Sky at IER Podcast and in each retelling podcast.tumblr.com. And if you'd like to help us reach the next chapter of our story, please consider leaving a review on the podcatcher of your choice, rating us on the podcatcher of your choice, and even just giving us good word of mouth to the people in your life who might be into this nerdy stuff. Additionally, if you have room in your wallets, please consider donating to our Patreon. Like, once again, thank you to Kyle Calgren, and also thank you to our new patron, Juan Garcia. Hint, hint on who that might be. Thank you, Dad. I love you. Please consider being as cool as these two. They get cool perks out of it. Why not, if you have room in your wallet? Or we have a Ko-Fi link or the support the show link below. But whether you support us financially or not, anything you do to help us keep this little train going really means the world to us, and much like these stories we talk about, helps us continue on. And speaking of the next chapter of our story, next week...
Excuse me, I'm really sorry to interrupt, Jazz. Could you...
Oh, hi, Billy, good buddy. What can I do for you?
Could you draw me a sheep?
A sheep?
Yes, can you draw me a sheep?
Sure.
That'd be great. Thank you so much. Let's see what you got.
Does that work for you?
Oh, no, that one's way too old. I can't. No, you got to try again.
Oh.
That one's going to die in like 3 months.
Oh, dear. Okay. That's morbid, but let's go. All right. Is this better?
That's a goat. You put horns on it.
Oh.
You know what sheep are, right?
Well, yes. I just blame my inner Capricorn, okay?
Oh, yeah. Well. Can't blame you for that, I suppose. I'm a Capricorn moon.
Mm-hmm. Oh, nice. I barely know the star sign stuff, to be honest, but is this better?
That one looks kind of sickly, Jazz. Like, I'm worried for its health.
Oh, dear. Okay,
Tell me what.
Send that
Why don't you draw me a box that has the sheep inside?
This is starting to sound familiar, Billy. Are you trying to tell me something?
Maybe.
Does someone have a wish?
I do. I would love to talk about The Little Prince, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and I have seen 2 different movie adaptations of it.
Okay. I mean, I knew about the 2015 one. What's the other one?
There's a 1974 version in which Lowe and Lerner write the music and the lyrics and book for it. It's a musical.
Interesting. All right, sure. We can absolutely talk about The Little Prince for your wild card wish. So, dear listeners, I guess that is going to be our next episode. We hope you'll join us. And remember, stories gain power in each retelling.
Oh, and can you draw me a muzzle for my sheep? I don't want it to eat this flower I have.
Oh, boy. Sure. We'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
Not half as good as yours, Mother. Here it is, and we can never thank you enough for the patient sowing and reaping you have done, cried Jo with a loving impetuosity which she never would outgrow. I hope there'll be more wheat and fewer tares every year, said Amy softly. A large sheaf, but I know there's room in your heart for it, Marmee dear, added Meg's tender voice. Touched to the heart, Mrs. March could only stretch out her arms, as if to gather children and grandchildren to herself and say, with face and voice full of motherly love, gratitude, and humility, "Oh, my girls, however long you may live, I never can wish you a greater happiness than this."